All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. So, back to Cyber Lab. Just quick reminder, we'll start off with a talk given by Savannah in just a few moments about her experience in cybersecurity lobbying up in DC. And then after the talk, we'll just spend the rest of the time continuing work on our labs. Is anyone here new to labs? Did not attend last week? Okay, have you all submitted the join form here? acmcyber.com/join. Please make sure if you have not submitted this form already, do so we know your interest in the labs. We have two labs right now, it's on the form. We have our GDB lab and where you will make a debugger from scratch, and our Burp Suite lab where you will make a web auditing tool from scratch. For those of you who are new, if you have any questions, ask after the presentations and we can answer your questions. And yeah, just a reminder, to be an active member, you do need to just be an active member in the lab and then present your project at the symposium, which is tentatively scheduled for Monday, week 10. Just a couple of other announcements. This Saturday, we will be headed to the Getty just across the 405 for a Getty social. So please RSVP at that link if you're interested in hanging out with us. Go check out some cool arts and gardens. We will be taking public transit, so make sure you have your bus pass ready and activated. We will also be doing next year CPTC. So this is a pen testing competition. It is limited. We can only bring 6 people in to the competition. So if you're interested, you have to submit like this quote unquote application form. We will be closing this probably tonight. So if you're interested at all, please submit it later tonight. Like let's just say before midnight at the very latest. And then lastly, reminder that we do cyber basketball every Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. in Hitch Courts. Are any questions? Cool. I will invite Savannah up here to talk about her lobbying experience.
Hey everyone, I'm Savannah. Yeah, if you don't know me, I used to be the former cyber president. And also, if you don't know me, I am also a poli-sci double major. I feel like that's a fact that is repeated a lot. So I am going to shove poli-sci stuff down your throats while I have the chance. So just a little background. I am a part of the Society of Women Engineers Lobbying Committee. It's a newer committee and it's super fun. And my favorite part about this club is that we do a yearly DC trip. And what we do before the DC trip is we pick bills that we are interested in, that we want to support or oppose, and then we go to DC and talk to the legislatures and tell them our opinions. So yeah, I'm actually right here in this photo. So my bill, I actually had two or three bills that I lobbied on, but I'm just going to speak about the cybersecurity one since that's actually relevant to today. So it is HR 807, super long name. But basically this is a bill that analyzes communications between the public and private sector when there is a cybersecurity attack on a financial institution. So it just kind of analyzes to make sure that the communications are smooth and that everyone has relevant and timely information when they need it. I don't know why it is specific to financial institutions. There are like specific statistics about cybersecurity attacks on financial institutions. So I think that's where the bill came from. And yeah, this was the only cybersecurity bill I can find that was cool in Congress. So I was like, you know what, this one seems like it would be a fun bill to lobby on. So I've been talking a lot about lobbying. So what is it? So lobbying is the process of convincing lawmakers to pass, kill, or introduce a bill. It is also a job. There's two types of lobbyists you can be. You can be an in-house lobbyist where a specific company hires you and you work and lobby for just that specific company. Or you can be a contract lobbyist where you're more independent and you take on different clients and lobby for each of them. I actually had a lobbying internship for the past 2 summers, and my dad is a lobbyist in Sacramento. One thing is lobbyists often has a negative connotation, like this image. People like see it as like legal corruption or having bad influences on the government. But lobbying can also be a force for good, and that is the type of lobbying I'm interested in. I am, as you can see from my lobbying internship, I'm really interested in lobbying, and I'm more so interested in lobbying on like issues that I'm really passionate about, say cybersecurity or also human rights, and less so interested in like big corporation lobbying. So it's really a spectrum. So yeah, just a little also thing you need to know before you understand the lobbying process is how a bill functions in Congress. So a bill is introduced by a legislature. So in the House or the Senate, whichever one the bill is introduced in, it will stay in that chamber for a while before it moves over to that other chamber. So all the top row is we're staying in the first chamber it originates in. So after a bill is introduced, it is sent to a relevant committee where they kind of analyze the bill and take a deeper look at it. The committees it is sent to is usually, or not usually, but it is relevant to the bill. So the people on that committee are supposed to be experts in that policy so that they are able to have a say on the bill and provide their expert advice. So in this stage, the bill can also be amended. And then after the bill is hopefully passed by the committee, then it goes down to the chamber floor. So this is where everyone in the chamber will vote on the bill. So if you have a bill that is introduced in the House, goes to a House committee, then it needs to be passed by the entire House. If it's the Senate, same thing for the Senate. And then after it passes the first chamber floor, it goes to the next chamber, and then the process repeats. And if it's passed, then it is sent to the president to sign off on. This graph is kind of simplified. There are some extra steps that can happen, but this is just the general view of a bill. I didn't want to confuse you all for no reason. So what is the strategy for lobbying? So one approach you might think of is talking to every single person on Congress, being like, hey, I love this bill, or I hate this bill. Do you agree with me? Can you agree with me? But the issue is that is a lot of work. Scheduling all those meetings, no one has time to even schedule all those meetings because people don't like to respond to their emails. And even if you do schedule all those meetings, that is a lot of meetings. You can't do that. Second problem is that bills go through multiple votes with different groups of legislatures. So the people you talk to first might not necessarily be the people who are voting on your bill first, which you need the first vote to happen in order to get those people to be able to vote on those bills. So the strategy behind lobbying is you want to focus your attention to where your bill is. So for example, my bill was sent to a committee, so I want to focus on everyone in that committee. And this approach helps build support for your bill at each step to make sure it passes each point. You're focusing on the smaller picture before I can focus on the bigger photo. So I mentioned my bill. It was sent to the House Committee on Financial Services. So what I did is I went to their website and I looked up the leaders of this committee. I was like, okay, these are the leaders. These are their emails or room numbers that I can go and ask for a meeting to. And then I also looked at all the members of the committees. So if we go to the members page, it's really easy to find all this information. You just search up your committee that you're interested in, members, and it'll pop up. So this is also kind of funny because since the Republicans control Congress, the Republicans, how do I scroll? They get nice little photos that you can click on to find their email addresses, whereas the Democrats just get this. You can't click on it. I don't know if the Democrats do that when they're in power. This is pretty funny. Either way, it's not hard to find their information. You just search up their name and then their website pops up. And yeah, it is also fun to schedule. Let me full screen this. Okay. Let me go back. How do I go back?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it is also fun to schedule meetings with your own representatives and senators because you have a connection with them and they might be more willing to meet with you. So that's fun. Yeah, so getting the meetings. So before the trip, we all emailed legislators' office to schedule meetings. Some legislators have emails on their websites that are very easy to find. Some of them, they have like an email submission form that you have to submit. Some of which were, they like don't want you to be able to submit stuff if you're not in their district. Sometimes if they really don't want to give out their emails, they don't put it anywhere on their website, so you have to call their offices and be like, hey, I want to schedule a meeting for these dates. Like, can I get an email? Or we can schedule it over the phone. And so yeah, that's the process. And then during the trip, when we didn't have meetings, we would go door knocking. We would just go to the people we wanted to have meetings with. So the people on the House Financial Services Committee, for me, I just go start at the top floor, go down, try to hit everyone and ask for a meeting. So yeah, you just walk in, you're like, hey, I'm a student. Or I said, hey, I'm a member of Society of Women Engineers Lobbying Committee at UCLA. I have a bill I'm interested in. It's about cybersecurity. Do you or another staffer have a moment to talk to me about it? If they do, that's great. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, sure, I'm free and I'm actually work on that subject matter. So you'll have impromptu meetings right there and then. Sometimes they're like, oh, sorry, I'm not the person who deals with this subject matter, and the person who does is actually out of the office. You can take their business card, which has their email on it. So then I would get their business card and email them, and sometimes they'll be fast at responding to their emails. Most of the time they are not, but I did get an email. I think I door knocked on Wednesday, and I sent an email. I sent a bunch of emails, and one person responded to me being like, hey, does Friday work? And it did work. So you still can get people there, but oftentimes it's nothing. I sent out emails and a lot of people did not respond to me, or they responded to me after I was already out of DC, which is sad. And I guess a little disclaimer about meetings is you mostly always meet with staffers. This is because the representative in this case, or the senator, is like really busy. They have like committee hearings to go to, or votes to go to, or they're meeting with constituents. There's a lot of different things that they can be doing. So you'll most likely not meet with the actual legislature. Sometimes you can though. I almost met with my representative, but then he had a conflict, so then he canceled the meeting, which was sad. But last time we did meet with someone else's representative, which is cool. So yeah, the meeting, it's actually really short because you just say your pitch, the staffer asks the questions, and that's basically it. The staffers are also really busy, so they don't have time for like a 2-hour long meeting where they like dissect your bill in great detail. That'd be also way too stressful. But yeah, my whole spiel could be done in about like 10 minutes. I'd say it didn't need to go over that. So the basics of the meeting is you always want to bring a memo to the meeting. This is just an outline of your bill, a lot of stuff you say in the actual meeting, plus extra stuff. Also your statistics, if you have any. This is also helpful because oftentimes when you meet with staffers and you give them the memo and you start talking, they just read through your memo and skim it really quickly while you are talking. And also you always want to say the bill number and name. If you don't, they will always ask you because they do want to know. They're interested in what you have to say. Then you kind of lay out the problem, which lays the groundwork for why this bill is even necessary. You talk about how the bill solves the problem, why the legislature that the staffer works for should support it, and then you ask for the support from the legislature or ask to co-sponsor the bill. And some extra stuff that isn't necessary, but it is pretty helpful, is personal stories and connections. Like if you have a really heart-wrenching story about a bill, that's often useful in convincing the legislature to support. And also, you want to tailor the arguments for the office because people might have different beliefs and they might, you know, have different reasons to support a bill. So, for example, when I met with Republican staffers, they're like, oh yeah, protecting America and America's cybersecurity is important. So they're going more that angle, whereas the Democratic people would just listen to me and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. They weren't like necessarily going with that angle, but I tried to push the American cybersecurity with the Republicans because I knew that would make them more receptive to my bill. So did it work? So I'd say I met with around a dozen offices in 3 days. I got a good amount of walk-ins from both parties, from both Republicans and Democrats. Online and over the phone, the Republicans are a lot more hesitant to schedule meetings with you if you're not in their constituent area. But if you go in person, everyone's actually really nice. So like it's much less intimidating when you are in person and they're more willing to schedule a meeting. And for the offices that I tried to get a meeting but I couldn't get a meeting with, I would often leave my memos there so they could pass it on to the person who worked in that subject matter. Everyone seemed to have a positive view of my bill. No one hated it. I don't think they'd be mean if they hated it, but I couldn't even sense any underlying hostility or dissent from them. I think it really helps that cybersecurity is not a partisan topic. Some of my other bills were a little bit more partisan topics. So this one is a lot easier to lobby on. So I checked up on this bill this afternoon, and it hasn't passed the committee that it's in, and no one new has decided they want to sign on as a co-sponsor, which is sad, but I think, you know, Congress has so many bills that they are dealing with. So I hope that my bill can be passed out of that committee soon enough. This is also not my job. It is a fun thing I do for fun. I don't do it for a living. I don't get paid to do it. And I'm also a student. So I literally cannot be lobbying Congress 24/7 and making sure they do pass my bill. So I guess the long answer short for did it work is maybe. I haven't seen any results yet, but it's also important to be able to, you know, voice your opinion to Congress so that they can, you know, see your views and hopefully represent them. So yeah, that is all. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Wait, so did you like talk to congressmen about multiple bills at the same time, or did you just meet for one specific bill?
Okay, so I was mostly focusing on 2 different bills. This one and then another bill. It was about reallowing transgender service in the military. And so I wanted to go to the specific committees that the bills were in, because they're in different committees. They're both in the House though. So if I was meeting with a Republican lawmaker, I would not mention that bill at all. I would only mention this one. And if I was at a Democrat's office, I would sometimes mention that bill if I thought they'd be open to it. I also had a friend who was like going door knocking with me, and sometimes she'd mention her bill at the Democrat's office. So yeah, I guess it's more so strategic, but sometimes you slip in another bill if you think they'd be able to want to support it.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Who writes the bill?
Who writes the bills? Okay. It's so I guess the legislator or like the representative or senator, they come up with the ideas that like, oh, we see this problem in our community, we want to address this. Sometimes the staffers come up with it. Sometimes lobbyists and would be like, hey, the organization we represent has identified a problem. We would like you to introduce the bill. And if the legislature is like, yeah, that's a good idea, they'll introduce the bill. And then sometimes, I don't know, maybe constituents will bring up a problem. So that's kind of like the idea for the bill, but who actually does the technical writing itself, I don't think it's usually the actual legislators. It's government officials who are like lawyers and trained in law. They like write the actual technical language. So it's like a mix of those. Does that make sense? Okay, cool.
Was this House or Senate?
Oh, I was in the House. Let's see. Yeah, so HR, that stands for House of Representatives. So national bills, if they're in the House, they're HR, but if in their Senate, they're just S, which is different from California, where if it's a Senate bill, it's SB, and if it's what's the other one? The Assembly, it's AB. But yeah, this one is a House bill.
And bills start in the, am I remembering my history?
Yeah, they can start in the Senate. It's just that this one was introduced in the House and hasn't left it yet. So that's why I was only focusing on the House. there were some, I wanted to get a Senate bill because I wanted to get the Senate offices, but I couldn't find a good bill that I liked and wanted to lobby on.
I don't know if this ever happens, but does it affect how you present if you're speaking to like someone you purpose you don't respect like at all?
Yeah, I was a little nervous that they're gonna see my purple hair and go, oh, that's a liberal, and not want to speak with me. But everyone was really nice, so I got comfortable. And since I was talking about cybersecurity, which is like no one gets riled up about cybersecurity, so like it wasn't it didn't really affect me. I think if I was trying to lobby for more controversial bills, then it might like affect the way I spoke, but not for this one.
Any last questions? All right, another round of applause. All right, thank you, Savannah. So yeah, thank you. And then let's go ahead and split into our lab group. So up front, we'll have our burp sleep lab, and then in the back, we will have our GDB lab.